Bob Chapman. Okay, you've got the floor until we go to calls at the end of this segment, the next segment. I want to hold you 5 minutes over if you can. Go through it. Let's go back to 3-4 years ago. Been interviewing you for 10 since you came out of retirement. But let's go back to 3 years ago. You can give the dates of the forecaster, 40-something pages, twice a week. I mean, I remember you over and over again. They're going to implode the economy. Here were the derivatives, 2008, 2009, or 10. You were saying that in 2006, 7, 8. You said then Europe will start with Greece, then Portugal, then Spain, then Italy. I mean, you just like literal crystal ball show. They've just declassified a Pentagon report from 2005. They knew this, and that's actually up on Drudge Report today. But go over from the beginning and then where it's going next. Look into that ball again, so we have a good idea from your mind what's going to unfold next.
Well, very quickly, the members of the Eurozone, there were 14 at that time, which included Greece and Italy eventually, and they had to prove their financial worth. And, public debt had to be less than 3% of GDP. If it wasn't, they would get fined. Of course, along through the last 10 years, they've all gone over that number, so it's meaningless. But the very point is that Greece and Italy should have never been allowed in. And I can remember Prodi from Italy, who was making speeches in Germany to the effect that, we'll build a pipeline to send milk to Germany so that they'll have plenty of milk if you'll allow Greece into the European Union. Well, we found out in the interim some of the things I just talked to you about earlier, and I think what they were up to, and I said this on the program sometime, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, is that Greece was to be the poster boy, so to speak, in the effort to bring down the entire world economy.
And they now admit that. The Greece thing was a smokescreen. That's actually a Reuters headline for the European bailout.
Well, it didn't start that way. It started, they wanted to use Greece to extend. Greece is broke, there's no question. And they wanted to extend the life of Greece for about a year and a half, 2 years, until they could get all their other chickens in line. There's 19 of them. And a number of them are outside the European Union, of course. There's the United States and Japan and England and Venezuela and Peru, not Peru, Venezuela, Bolivia, and Ecuador. I think Uruguay may go the same way. Argentina's broke again. Unfortunately, Chile's been subject to terrible earthquakes, which is beside that. But there comes to 19 right now. And it was my feeling that they wanted to bring them all together a year and a half down the line, 2 years down the line, and everybody would devalue and everybody would default, and it would all be arranged. They've done this before. But they never expected that Greece would say, hey, no, we've had enough. We're not going to do that. We didn't know what they were doing, and we really didn't. And the bankers who made these loans, these bonds that they purchased, should have never done so. And so we're not going to pay, and we're not going to be involved, and we're not going to be put under austerity. Now you're hearing the same thing from Portugal and Spain and Ireland.
So it's a rebellion against the banker looting.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to put it. Now, the same thing's going to happen in America, but they're not quite ready for it yet. But it will happen. And so you're going to have this disgruntlement, these demonstrations. You may even see civil war in some countries, and Greece is a good example of where that could happen. At the same time, we're talking about the Trilateral Commission calling for a Third World War because they want to diffuse and deflect the attention from their efforts to bring down the world economically and financially, but at the same time blame it on a war with Iran or whoever they're going to attack. And that's what they're up to. And their plans have been thrown up in the air. Greece has screwed the whole thing up for them. So now they're going to have to come up with all this money and $1 trillion is not going to do it, I promise you, of which $65 billion is coming from the United States via the IMF. So you American citizens out there should be happy to know that you're helping to bail recalcitrant countries, at least in Europe at this time. And, you know, what is really sad is Estonia is on the verge of collapse financially, and they're ready to join the Eurozone, which I don't think they should at this time. But there's 19 nations, and they're trying to keep them all afloat now because they underestimate what the Greeks did. And so they're gonna have to continue to pour money into that situation, and it's going to cause hyperinflation in Europe, and we're going to have hyperinflation in the United States, and eventually it'll turn into total deflation. And that's the way we're headed. And as far as you mentioned what went on 2 weeks ago, my take is, and this is to do with the plunge in the market, my take's the same as Max Kaiser's. It was a government operation. It was a terrorist attack on the people who invest in the U.S. stock market. And the reasons why they showed their power, probably using Goldman and others to knock the market down by sucking the liquidity out of the derivative market. And they wanted to tell Congress, look, this is what we can do. And if you don't stop a real audit of the Fed, and if you try to break up the too big to fail banks, this is what we're going to do to you. And, of course, Congress does, and they were paid off, too, does exactly what they're told. And so we now have some rinky-dink one audit situation on the Fed where they're really not going to look at anything important.
And Ron Paul has now put out a statement yesterday. In fact, guys, print that again. Ron Paul says Sanders sold out is the article. I know you printed it for me, but I can't find it here. I want to read his statement. He said Bernie Sanders completely sold out, and this is a whitewash. And so when Grayson runs around, he's showing his true colors saying, we beat the Fed, that's a load of baloney.
Well, he thinks that in the Joint Committee that they're going to be able to add amendments. And it's possible, but not really probable. But we'll see. I wish him the best, Grayson. And is it phony baloney? We'll find out when we get there. What are the chances of winning? Very small. Where do we go from here? You'll see other terrorist attacks in the market. There's no question. This was a Goldman, Morgan, Deutsche Bank, Citigroup, HSBC attack. They knew exactly what was going on. I mean, on this program, I told you that I knew that all of that group were super long the dollar between 74 and 76 on the USDX. It's now trading at 86, and they're long. And their leverage is probably 100 to 1. They're making gazillions of dollars because they knew that that was going to happen in Europe because they planned it that way. And it's the same thing when the market dropped and everybody got wiped out of their stop-loss positions. They turned around and brought the market right back 700 points. Who did that? The same people who took it down in behalf of the United States government and the Federal Reserve so that Congress wouldn't even think of not doing what they were told.
So where is all this going? What's the next phase? Where do you see it breaking out next? How will they respond?
Well, I think the market's going down. And I think they're going to allow it to go down. Not precipitously, but like you throw a flat rock in the water, and as it goes down, it ladles back and forth until it hits the bottom. And that's the approach they're going to take. And in the markets, they've got to take them down. They can't maintain them at the levels that they're at. And so where's the Dow going to go? It went from 11,200. It's 10,600. It was down 300 points today, earlier, when we started this program 45 minutes ago. And now it's off 199 points.
And they said, we need 156 billion, we need 600 billion, we need $1 trillion by Monday. Then Tuesday they said a trillion's not enough. You know, the trillion, Europe loses its balance. I mean, this is unraveling quickly.
It is. It really is. And as I said, the thing that people aren't thinking about in Europe is Germany. Another thing they're not thinking about financially and economically is Russia. And I think you're going to see real trouble in Europe, not only on the people who are receiving funds, who are going to say, we don't want to get bailed out. And then the people who are being forced, the citizens of the other countries. And don't forget, it's not just Europe. The IMF represents, 150 countries. They're all paying. You know, it's just like, give them a can of gasoline and a match, and, let's turn the world into a conflagration economically and financially. And that's what they're doing. It's to create chaos, and out of that, create a new world order.